the Humans and Earth podcast. Since 2020, we've offered you resources for thriving in your own life while you contribute to greater well-being for other people, plants and animals, and our gorgeous planet. Our episodes show you improvements occurring for humans and the natural world and help you feel whole, strong, and empowered so you can offer support wherever you feel called. I'm Dr. Chara Arman, a thought leader and teacher who knows without a doubt that many of us alive today are on a shared mission to renew ourselves and life on Earth. We're entering together into a new era of collaboration based on our scientific and spiritual understandings that all life is interconnected. I've gone beyond eco-anxiety and pessimism to the awareness that restorative change is happening across our planet and anyone can participate. People around the world are embracing the consciousness of connection and unity, creating healing shifts for themselves, and stepping forward to assist other people and the natural world toward greater ease and flourishing. With expertise in the history of human cultures and our dynamic relationship to planet Earth and her many inhabitants, and decades of experience in personal development, spirituality, nature connection, trauma recovery, and healing modalities, I offer the podcast to support you in healing and transforming yourself while you contribute to the world's transformation. Healing ourselves is necessary to help Earth heal. As we transform individually and as a human species, we choose to live in harmony with one another and the natural world. You'll learn in our episodes that your sense of calling to contribute to greater flourishing on our planet is real and legitimate. Your vision and action are needed, and you can contribute with ease and soulful authenticity, not sacrifice and burnout. In our interviews and my solo episodes, you'll find help with the overwhelm you may feel in our complex world and resources for caring for and developing yourself even when the outer world seems chaotic. Whoever you are, there's a way for you to assist yourself, other people, and plants and animals to experience greater ease and thriving. In the Humans and Earth community, we're learning that we don't heal ourselves or our world through fear or despair, but from our heart-centered love, our creativity, and our self-empowerment. We're not trying to save a sinking ship, but collaborating with other people and the natural world to strengthen the renewal and regeneration that already are in process globally. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Humans and Earth. I am really delighted to be with Abiola Abrams today. She is an award-winning author of this new book. You can see it behind her, and I'm lucky to have a copy as well, From Imagination to Reality. She's also the author of African Goddess Initiation, and she is an intuitive coach, a keynote speaker and columnist, creator of Goddess Oracle cards, and faculty member of the Omega Institute, the Shift Network, and Hay House Summits. Abiola studied sociology at Sarah Lawrence College, and she also has an MFA from Vermont College of Fine Arts. She is mommy to Ruby and the first-generation American daughter of multi-generational healers, seers, and farmers in Guyana, South America, who are descended from several West African nations. Abiola is passionate about midwifing conscious leaders to break through and using her gifts to inspire, uplift, and transform. You can learn more about her work at womanifesting.com. I'll put that link in the show notes, and on social media at Abiola TV. I am especially grateful to Abiola because she is graciously recording this interview with me for the second time. So lucky me, I get to spend another hour with her. Our initial interview was a delight, but it was the one and only time that I have had a disaster with the way that Zoom recorded the audio and video. So I'm trusting today is going to be magnificently easy and technologically perfect. For listeners of this podcast who find any ideas in Abiola's and my conversation unfamiliar, you might want to listen back to episode 43 on Green Brain, episode 38, my interview about neuroplasticity with Dr. Kathleen King, episode 56 on what I call the democracy of frequency, and episode 57, We're Called to Transform. What Abiola and I are going to do today for you is talk a little bit about what new thought is, discuss why it's important for healing or renewing ourselves, and also for how we treat other people and planet Earth. So, Abiola, I'm so happy to talk with you. As I've mentioned before, like you, I have found the New Thought movement to be pivotally influential in my life. It's been really important to me personally. Like you, I've been influenced by people like Michael Bernard Beckwith, Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, and the amazing Neville Goddard, who was your connecting point to this extraordinary man, Abdullah, whom we're definitely going to talk about in a few minutes. For our listeners, I'm going to mark that New Thought, as we're going to discuss today and is featured in Abiola's beautiful book, is what I would call the spiritual version of our current neuroscientific studies of neuroplasticity, positive psychology, the work of people like Rick Hansen, who are talking about our primitive red brain and our more evolved green brain. Another thing we're going to talk about, and Abiola, you had mentioned that, well, I know you addressed this a little bit beautifully in the book. You'd said there was a little more material on there that got cut out. But although this New Thought movement is sometimes misinterpreted as ungrounded or naive, its emphasis on frequency actually connects to scientific understandings like wave theory and resonance and string theory. So I'm putting all those connections out there for people to think about. I was aware of your work, Abiola. I think we've been friends on Facebook for a while, as I mentioned. But when I heard you recently on Michael Beckwith's podcast, talking about how Neville's teachings had been inspired by those of an Ethiopian Black rabbi in New York City named Abdullah, I was so excited. I was blown away. I thought, wait a minute, there's this hidden pivotal figure behind the last century of New Thought. And I guess he's been there in the records, but nobody's really talked about him. So I'm excited to hear you do this with us. I thought we'd start with one of the New Thought concepts, and then we'll definitely talk about Abdullah. So you write in the book, which I really recommend that people get, it is the best introduction, or it's not an introduction, it's the best delving into this topic that I've ever seen. You write about how New Thought authors remind us that we live in a world where our inner thoughts and beliefs hold the keys to shaping our outer reality. We kind of know these in basic ways. Like if I'm thirsty, I can pick up my glass and drink some water. But you and the other New Thought authors are talking about this in deeper, more dynamic, complex ways. Tell us a little bit about how you like to explain this concept, which again, on the surface, it's like no big deal. If I'm thirsty, I have the thought, I pick up my glass. But then if you tell someone your thoughts create your reality, people can get confused or upset. Talk to us about what kind of language you like to give to this.
Yes. So first of all, thank you so much for having me back on. And I'm excited for us to continue this conversation. And hello to all of your viewers and listeners. So as you said, these concepts, when we think about them or don't think about them in our general life, as it were, we go on and don't realize that we are using these concepts, the concepts that make up manifestation, the manifestation movement and movements throughout time. We've been doing these things already. So it's just like if we think about, for example, with gravity doesn't care whether you believe in it. If right now I say, well, I don't believe in gravity, it doesn't make sense to me. I still, if I drop my phone, it's still going to fall. So just like that, the principles of manifestation as we know them have been in existence, and we not only have been in existence, but we as individuals, everyone who is watching this, has been using these principles in their lives. And so at its most simple, we all learned, all of us who ever took a high school science class or physics class, learned that what appears to be steady, matter that appears to be steady, everything in your beautiful room, for example, or the chair that I'm sitting on, that if you've got a strong enough microscope and were able to observe that it is not steady at all, that there is not what appear to be steady blocks of items actually are vibrating frequencies of tiny nanoparticles. And so everything, including me, including you, including, the crystals on my shelf, including, the book, the phone, everything is moving. Everything is vibrating. Every single thing is vibrating. And so it stands to reason, and we've heard in biblical thought, we've heard in every spiritual practice, these teachings, again, they're not as out there as they would seem. It makes sense that like attracts like, or that, as within, so without, or that, the frequencies that, things that vibrate at the same frequency vibrate together, or that we look in a mirror and life is a mirror. These are different ways that we have heard these teachings over time. And so, again, I'm sharing all of this because it's helpful for us to make a jump in our minds to realize, oh, okay, this is not so out there. It's just a slight shift in what I've already been doing or how I've already been looking at life. Like you said, when we're thirsty, there's cause and effect. My parents have a garden, and so and I have burnt grass now in front of my house, that had a reaction to the heat wave in New York. But when you put seeds in the soil, they come up after a certain amount of time. So when you plant your ideas, your goals, your intentions in solid, in fertile soil, be that soil frequency, vibration, intention, however you desire to look at it, it makes sense that that would then come into fruition. So that's the good news, is that if you want to know what manifesting is, you've already been doing it. So that's great. Now we're just going to talk about doing it consciously, because we're all already doing it. We have been doing it. My daughter is a great manifester at 2.5 years old. She is a phenomenal manifester, like to the point where it's like just so crazy. The other day she decided it's more fun to draw on my dry erase board in my office for some reason than her perfectly lovely little childy, easel that she has. So she wants to draw on, my dry erase board. Of course, I don't want her to write on there with anything but dry erase markers, because otherwise it'll be permanent and ruin the board. So I took all of the dry erase markers away from her to try to deter her from my board. And I said, okay, well, when we get a chance, we'll order more and you'll have some, and then you can be able to use them. And the other day we had a party this Saturday, and someone brought her a gift, and by accident they left in the bag a dry erase marker. How does that happen? You cannot make that up. You can't make that up. But for her, there's no expectation of lack or scarcity. She's 2.5. I need a marker to draw on this board. So boop, there's a dry erase marker that has materialized that is there for her because she does not have the beliefs. That's the challenge. That's the issue. The blocking beliefs that would keep her out of alignment of the things that she desires.
Yeah. And you have to notice, right? You know, some of us would say, oh, how strange or how annoying they left this random marker. But of course, really what we're supposed to notice is I needed a dry erase marker and now one has come to me. So it's there's kind of both sides of the consciousness, right? Like the conscious creation, and then I don't even know what to call it because I haven't really thought about this before, but the conscious receiving, maybe.
Yes, conscious receiving. Absolutely. Receiving is a big thing. I've been talking about actively receiving for years because receiving is an active practice. You know, many of us have problems even with receiving compliments, much less receiving abundance and receiving love, receiving, you know, health and well-being. So receiving absolutely has to be an active part of the practice. So I'm glad that you know, made that observation. And there is a scientific principle as well that says that anything that is observed shifts. Anything that we observe, it is different than it would have been, you know, had it not been observed. Energy influences energy.
Yeah.
Energy cannot be created, it cannot be destroyed, it always is. Spirit cannot be created, cannot be destroyed, it always is. It's just different language about talking about the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And
So
if we get bogged down in the semantics of it, the semantics don't matter. So people will often ask me in these conversations about manifesting, they'll say, Abiola, well, you know, is it the law of attraction where we are magnetizing things toward us? I put them on my vision board and poof, I magnetize the perfect situations to me. Or is it the law of assumption, as you talk about with Neville Goddard in your book, The Law of Assumption, where what we assume we create, are we magnetizing or creating it? Or is it, as the quantum physicists and the quantum manifestors are saying, that we shift to different timelines when we desire something, you know, sliding doors, we've now slid into another timeline? And the answer is yes, all of the above. And why get bogged down in, you know, in the minutia of it?
yeah. Yeah. Right. And it's helpful that we have all these different framings and all this language. And we're not going to go in this direction right now, but just to kind of touch back to what you said, world religions, spiritualities, and philosophies have been talking about this for millions of years. So we have a lot of different types of language. I want to make sure we talk about Abdullah for sure, but where I think I want to go next is one of the big objections that people come up with is really important to address. And that is that this is just simple positive thinking or it's spiritual bypassing. I loved one of your definitions in the book. You say, true positive thinking is not about denying hardships or avoiding emotional pain. It's about acknowledging these challenges and choosing to focus on your capacity to overcome them. True positive thinking isn't about ignoring problems or feelings. But I want to give you space to talk about this more because the big conversation that's been happening over the last few years to couple decades on spiritual bypassing and toxic positivity, that conversation has its validity. That's not what we're doing here, though. So tell us more about that aspect.
Yes. So this was very important for me to include this in my book because, you know, I am a Black woman who is the daughter of immigrants who grew up in New York City in, you know, the inner city in the 80s and 90s. And so I share all of those things to say that I have seen my fair share of people struggling, dealing with challenges, dealing with issues. And I would be remiss to have a framework where I am labeling people as, you know, we'll saying, you know, let's just put a happy sticker on the gas tank when things go wrong, or let's just pretend that things are not as they are, or let's ignore, the larger framework of the things that are happening in the society around us. And I think that we do a disservice not only to our, fellow human beings, but we do a disservice to ourselves as well when we have a narrow view like that, where it's just, happy, happy, joy, joy, and we're not allowing people to feel their feelings. The inability to feel your feelings is responsible for a great deal of our addictions in our society, our problems, our eating disorders. There are all kinds of ways that we numb and avoid to avoid feeling what we feel.
Right. And gaslight people.
And gaslighting, right. Codependent relationships and unhealthy abusive situations of all kinds. And it is so important for me, to be able to give people room to say, what you feel matters. What you feel is not, irrelevant, or you're not manifesting because you're broken or wrong, or you're not enough, or something is wrong with you, that you've had a harder time maybe in dealing with certain things. It was really important for me to include that in the book, and to talk about the fact that the law of attraction, or the law of assumption, these are specific spiritual laws. But just like any other kind of law, there are many different spiritual laws. And we are here, all manifesting and co-creating this world together. There are a lot of things that are at play. And so making people bad or wrong for aspects of the human condition, or telling people that, well, just, slap a happy sticker on it and keep moving, is inhumane. It really is. It really
And
is.
keeps us stuck.
And
Yeah.
absolutely keeps us stuck, holds us back from being who we were really born to be, and having the fullness of human expression.
Yeah.
We have feelings and emotions for a reason. So telling us that, that it's not, we're not allowed to feel certain things is just, like you said, it keeps us stuck. It's inhumane. I remember a few years ago when I was dealing with medical challenges due to fibroids and infertility and all sorts of things, and I was going through a really rough time, and I did not feel comfortable in the spiritual communities that I was in having these conversations, because I felt like, oh no, what is wrong with me that I'm not able to just manifest my way out of this? Something must be wrong with me, that, I must be broken. I must be somehow fundamentally flawed. And that I would never want anyone to feel that way, not only from a place of compassion, but also because it's metaphysically unsound and irresponsible to put that on other people, put that on folks, put that on all of us as human beings.
Yeah. Well, that could be your next book. So what's the process then? Tell us something people can do, particularly when they're having a hard time, whether it's just a rough day or something, really difficult and distressing is happening. What's the process of acknowledging it and feeling your feelings, and then consciously choosing your response?
Yes. So it's exactly what you just said, acknowledging it, feeling our feelings, and then recalibrating ourselves. So acknowledging is first. And one of the ways that you can do that is journaling is a wonderful tool. If you are listening to this, you don't have to be a wonderful writer to journal. You don't have to write to ever read it back. You're writing for therapeutic purposes. You're writing to be closer in connection to yourself. For some of us, we're writing to even know, to process our feelings, to process our lives. Journaling is an incredibly powerful tool that all of us have access to. So getting clear on what it is that you even are feeling, because some of us, particularly those of us assigned female at birth, some of us weren't taught to feel our feelings. We weren't taught that it was okay. We grew up in households where we were not allowed to have big feelings. Maybe if you had big feelings, you had to go to your room, or in my household, like my mom would be like, "Oh my God, if you're upset, we'll have some ice cream and you'll feel better." People around us didn't necessarily feel comfortable with their feelings or ours. So it may be a learning curve to first say, what do I feel? How do I feel about this? There are things that seem basic, like what do I feel? Or in the case of with manifesting, also, what do I desire, that we may need to learn how to do to begin with. So
Yeah.
getting comfortable with, okay, well, what is that feeling? What is that feeling? What do I feel? And allowing ourselves to develop an emotional intelligence, maybe that we don't have, or to evolve the emotional intelligence that we do have. And from there, then saying, okay, this is what I feel. How do a good way to start to bridge the gap is, how would I like to feel?
Mhm.
How do I want to feel? Okay, maybe I want to feel relieved. Maybe I want to feel freedom. Maybe I want to feel relaxed. Maybe I want to feel, abundant. Whatever it is, how do you want to feel? And so then you want to recalibrate your vibration, your frequency, your state, however whatever language is resonant with you. And one of the easiest ways to do that, there are a number of different tools to do that. Thankfully, lots of things to do that. One of the tools is gratitude, for example, something else that we all have access to. Look around and start to think about what you are grateful for. What you are grateful for. And this is, getting into the realities of life as all of us experience it, is beyond the shallow end of, well, just good vibes only, or things happen. People are experiencing sickness and death and transitions and divorces and huge things. But if you can look around and just begin with where you are, wherever you are is enough. Just let's just breathe on that. Like, that by itself is an empowering statement. Wherever we are is enough. And then start to think about what it is that we are grateful for in this moment. If you can't think of anything, begin with breath.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for breath. I'm grateful for breath. I'm grateful for, begin with whatever it is that you have, just who you are, where you are, let that be enough. You know, I many years ago interviewed this woman who had experienced horrific abuse as a child at the hand of a minister in her church. And she had this beautiful, vibrant personality. And I remember asking her, she was so outspoken and such a luminous figure. I said, where did you get this big voice that you have, that you're putting out into the world? And she said, I started like a baby kitten. She said, I have this now. She said, but I started with
Mhm.
just first in the beginning, like a baby kitten, where I could barely meow. So begin with where you are. Wherever you are is enough. Speak your truth. Tell your story, even if it's just in your journal. Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. And then start to recalibrate yourself into the energy and the vibration of where you want to be. And as I said, gratitude is a great immediate shifter to help bring you there.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. And I loved that example, that story you told, because it's kind of a reminder that there's a lot of practice involved here. I think we now kind of take for granted that if you want to have a fit body, you probably need to be doing some form of exercise. So you're exercising your body. We could probably say one thing your book is about is how to exercise your mind and emotions
Yes.
to have the life experience that you want. And I think we need more conversation about how whoever you are today doesn't have to be where you stop. We're always in development. And then maybe this is about really deliberately choosing how we're developing.
Yes, that's it exactly. Oh my goodness. I love talking to you because you are so well versed in this area that you get it. You get it. You get it. So, how lucky for everyone who listens to this podcast. Absolutely, that is exactly what it is. One of the things that they took out of the book that I'm not happy that is out of the book, that I don't know if inadvertently somehow got deleted after I had seen it for the last time, is that where in the book where I have these decrees, the extended affirmations, which are, I wanted them to kind of function as the same way that exercise reps function, so that you're retraining your brain, you're rewriting your thoughts by repeating these extended statements for each one for 30 days at a time, 3 times a day, as a form of, as you said, like, spirit, the same way that you do physical conditioning for your body, a way of doing, spiritual or emotional retraining, reconditioning for your heart, for your brain, for your belief systems, all of those things. And so they left in the decrees, which I'm grateful for, but they took out the instruction that said, read this 3 times a day, for 30 days. And I think that it may be, there was a question in the air of, well, are we requiring too much of people? Is that going to scare them away? Is that going to, is that going to be too much? But, for me, I know that, the reason I included that is because that's a practice that I used to rewrite my own psychology, my own, emotional self, my own spiritual self at one point in time, many years ago. And for me, there was no, well, is this too much? Because I know the life that I wanted to lead. I know the joy that I wanted to have. I know the health that I wanted to feel. I know the abundance that I wanted to be in alignment with. And so the idea of, well, are we requiring too much by inviting people to repeat, and I can read one of the decrees, if you like, so that your audience gets what I'm talking about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like the idea that that would be too much, I think
it's almost disempowering. I mean, on the one hand, I'm very sympathetic. Life is really demanding right now. And with our whole electronic world, our life responsibilities and connectivities have ramped up. But on the other hand, I'm dubious about assuming that people can't handle their own focused development. So give us some decrees. And listeners, when you buy this book, you need to pencil in the decree section, read these aloud. What was it? Twice a day for 30 days?
Yeah, 3 times a day for 30 days.
3 times a day for 30 days. Okay,
so
I love it.
Lunch, and dinner.
I love it.
And I do have journal questions also for in each section. So if people, want to journal and they don't know what to write, you can begin with just using the questions in the book. So I opened the book, serendipitously enough, or strangely enough, in quotes, right to the feelings decree. I was going to say, well, let me pick which decree, but I opened it up to page 102, which is your feelings decree, in the section about the mystery of feeling, using the power of feeling when it comes to manifesting. So your feelings decree. My feelings create. Within my soul, a force awakens. Today, I stand tall in this realization. My feelings have the power to sculpt my destiny. My feelings have creative power. With every pulse of my heart, I channel emotions of love, abundance, and joy, letting them light the path ahead. These feelings are my guiding star, leading me even during life's most turbulent storms. When clouds of doubt loom overhead, I trust the innate power within me. For every emotion, whether of elation or despair, serves a divine purpose. They are the sacred messengers of my journey, steering me closer to my purpose. My feelings have power. From this moment on, I celebrate and honor my feelings. They are my compass and my allies. My feelings are the key. And so it is. And it's interesting, we were talking about feelings. So I think that that's why we open to the decree specifically on feelings.
Wonderful. And that gives me an idea of what I want to ask you next. So a lot of listeners of this podcast are really concerned about kind of the overall planetary situation for people and the earth and animals and plants. I would love to hear you speak, since you just read that outstanding feelings decree, to how people can understand the teachings in your book in relation to their concerns about the larger world. Because I think we've done a really good job so far in this conversation of giving people a sense of this is how and why you do this for yourself.
Yes.
I believe just intensively that we also need to be doing this for the whole human collective and plants and animals and Mama Gaia. I'd love to hear your take on that, how your feelings matter, your chosen feelings matter, not just for you, but for all of life.
This is such an important part of this conversation. For me, culturally, we are not, I love our American individualism, but for me, culturally, the community, the collective are extremely important. The idea of each one teach one, and that you don't get there alone, and that none of us are self made. And so I want to take this opportunity actually to acknowledge that I live and work on Lenape land in New York, for example. You
So
know,
do I.
Yay. Okay. And so, thank you to the stewards, of this land and the indigenous people whose land this is, that we're able to do so. And it is important, for us to, once you have these skills, the skills of, manifesting, the skills of creation, the skills of honoring your feelings, all of those kinds of skills that we're talking about that fall under the umbrella of the law of assumption, to look at ourselves as a global community. Look at, if that feels, too big and scary, start by looking at the community around you.
Absolutely.
Community around you, and think about, how can you give, how can you give back? If you feel like you can't give money, which is the simplest, easiest thing to give, then give your time. If you can't give time, give love. How can we, as a global community, have these deeper conversations? And one of the reasons why I enjoy this conversation around manifesting is that, if we think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for example, when we move out of the simplistic conversations about, oh, I manifested a house, or I manifested a car, or, those kinds of things are fun. But then, all of the incredible, loving, caring, empathic people who would be drawn to this conversation then look around as at a society and look around and say, okay, well, how can I manifest a world that is better for my fellow human beings? How can I manifest a world where water isn't a scarcity for some people, or where some have and others don't, and there's a more equitable distribution of resources, a place where our children are not afraid to go to school. It was so interesting when I took some time where I lived in my parents' country in Guyana, South America, and I was there when my daughter was born. And I remember that when I was coming back to New York City to live back in New York where I was born and raised, and my family members, who Guyana has until very recently been considered, the second poorest country in our hemisphere. They recently discovered oil, which hopefully the people are will get access to some of that money, but so that's not the case anymore. But my family members were nervous about the idea of my daughter being in American schools, because the level of violence that they see with the shootouts and things like that, they don't see that in other countries. And so, some of these conversations are taboo because we have the idea of American exceptionalism, and America is wonderful in many ways, but in the way that we don't think about ourselves as a community. The idea that, that you can't really make it unless we're all making it. The idea of, like, well, I'll get mine, or, all of those ideas are really detrimental to us as human beings, out of alignment with who we all really are, and unhealthy for us fundamentally in so many ways. Because when you think about each other as a community, then if you are a food corporation, for example, you are more conscious about, the chemicals that you use and the things that you put out there. And those of us who've traveled know that when you go to other countries, some of the cereals and things like that we have here are banned. A lot of the chemicals, are banned in other countries.
Yeah.
The cosmetics and the things that we put in our on our skin, and all of
Yeah.
those things. And so, this is a very important part of this conversation. So
Agricultural chemicals.
yeah.
Yeah, we could go on and on about that. So Okay, a couple of thoughts. I think we'll close with some mental scripting in a little while, and we'll kind of practice this for people. And we're still going to talk about Abdullah, but what do you say to someone who says, okay, maybe this works in my own life? Like, I am realizing I'm lonely, and so I'm going to acknowledge those feelings and cultivate an inner sense of feeling befriended and having companions. And I'm going to visualize this, and that's going to help draw in an energy of friendship. And I'm also going to take actions that feel guided to find some friends. But this person might say, I just don't see how this works on the world stage, or in any community outside of myself, my neighborhood, my city, my country, the whole world, whether you're talking about social injustice, economic problems, political conflicts, climate change. What if someone says to you, it doesn't feel relevant to me at that scale? Now, I would disagree, because one thing I would say is history shows that humans only create what we can imagine. So you better imagine what you want. But tell me what else you would say to that person who says, all right, I think I'm willing to try this on my own, but I'm still going to feel despairing about the future of humanity on this planet.
I think we have to remind ourselves, because, we are being inundated with, things that are pretty scary, can be conceived to be pretty scary on a daily basis. So we need to remind ourselves, even I do, and I wrote the book. So yesterday I went with my family to vote. We always vote together as a family. We're an immigrant family, so it's exciting for us. It was my daughter's, I want to say it was her first time going to the polls, but no, it was her first time now being able to remember it. She went as a 1 year old, and she was asleep. But yeah, so she went to the polls, and so explaining to her, how ideally this should work, kind of, and that sort of thing. And still then coming home, and I said to my sister, I was like, oh my gosh, and I started to say that, and then I said, wait, no, we're gonna manifest it the way that we would like it. So let's hold a vision for it as we would like it to be. So it's not that you need to just manifest it. We're not saying, okay, well, focus on manifesting it, and then don't go and vote, or don't go and, I don't know, whatever you're feeling called to do, run for office, donate the money, take up the cause, make a donation, all of those things. You do all of it as a global citizen. So yes, I will be visualizing, I will be holding a vision for, how I would like things to go, holding a vision for people healed, whole, and happy as a society. And I will be voting, and I will be, donating, and I will be at my daughter's school and making sure that it is a positive and loving environment. And I will be talking to people like you in conversations like this that hopefully, are making a difference with other people. You see? So
Yeah,
it's not an either or conversation.
that's really helpful the way you explained it. And I think the way that you talked through that reminds us all that it's always the vision that comes first. Whether you consciously know it or not, you have to have the vision before you take a conscious action.
Yeah.
So your book is guiding people to be really conscious and deliberate about what they're actually visioning, assuming, intending, hoping for, fearing, because these two always go together. We just can be a lot more conscious about it.
Yes, and I just remembered a story that I shared in our first conversation that they won't get to hear, that I would love to just share with you all again. That I remember being a younger woman, and volunteering for the Obama campaign, in, I guess it was 2008. Was it 2008, or 2007?
Yeah.
2008, yeah. And volunteering for that campaign, and working very hard for that campaign in New York, and doing phone banks and things like that, because I believed in the vision that they had. And at the same time, I will share with all of you that I did not think that a Black man could become president in the United States. That deep down, I was like, they'll never vote for him. But I still had to move forward with the vision, that, okay, I thought, okay, well, it will bring, this vision closer, even if I don't think that they're going to vote for him. And so, moving forward with the vision, holding the vision that you have. So if someone is watching this and they have a vision for their lives, for the country, for the world, even if you have, don't wait until you don't have to believe it all the way. Even if there's just a little bit of a belief, you can move forward with that. The little cat's meow that beautiful woman told me about, you can move forward with that. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, you don't have to see the whole staircase to take a step. So
I
you don't.
appreciate you saying that. I think it is really important because in these conversations, we might have a sense of, I'm not doing it right if I don't believe it completely. But, something is better than nothing,
And
and you
you
build
have,
on it.
yes, and you allow the miracles of life, the manifestations of your vision to then recalibrate you and recalibrate your belief system and say, okay, the first time when my daughter was stumbling and trying to walk, it felt like her like, oh my gosh, she's trying to right now ride a bike. It might seem to her impossible. Like, I try to show her, push your foot this way and push it might seem crazy. Like, okay, wait, I'm gonna push and how's it gonna work out? And then it works out, and you then now have a belief that under your belt that has been shifted because of your own experience. So you don't
Really
have
good point.
to have
Really
the
good point.
whole staircase in front of you to move forward.
I love that. So tell us about Abdullah. Tell us about how you discovered, well, I know you discovered Neville first and then Abdullah. And he's really important because there have been, what, 10 or 20 or more major New Thought teachers in the last century. And Abdullah's name has been kind of hidden, but he may have been the person who inspired them all. Tell us more.
Yeah, even before I even go to that, like, for example, even just in my publishing lineage, I am published by Hay House, and the two biggest players in the Hay House world, Dr. Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay, who neither one of them sadly is here with us in earth form anymore. But I believe their energy is still there, leading and guiding. That both of them were influenced directly by teachers who were from Abdullah's
Yeah.
school of
Yeah.
thought. So
It would have been totally wrong for you to have any publisher other than Hay House.
yes, yes. So Abdullah, and I have to reshare the title of the book to explain to the audience. So the name of the book is From Imagination to Reality: Secret Manifestation Lessons and the Law of Assumption from Abdullah, Master Alchemist. Abdullah was an Ethiopian rabbi, a Black man who lived and worked and taught spirituality in New York City about 100 years ago. He taught Greek, he taught the Kabbalah, and he taught Christianity. Interestingly enough, he was a believer and a teacher in truth.
He
And
was a true mystic.
yes, he was a true mystic, absolutely. And the beautiful thing is that in going back and unearthing his teachings and piecing them together through the teachings of his disciples and his disciples, which is what this book is, that I'm able to then bring these teachings forward. So his most known teacher who acknowledged him, because I'm sure there are many others who didn't necessarily acknowledge him, but his most known teacher who acknowledged him, Neville Goddard,
Or
is
student, his most known student.
Thank you.
Yeah.
His most known student who acknowledged him is Neville Goddard, who is most people know for bringing forward the law of assumption. There's been a big Neville Goddard resurgence in the past couple of years on TikTok and Instagram around using Neville Goddard's teachings in order to manifest. And Neville cleaned Abdullah's home in Manhattan around the time of the Great Depression in exchange for these teachings. In exchange for these teachings. And Dr. Joseph Murphy, who wrote the book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, which talking about, the power of subconscious thinking and the subconscious mind. For us now, these are kind of thoughts that we are very familiar with when we talk about positive thinking even. But at that time, this was very revolutionary thinking. He was also a student of Abdullah's. And so I learned, as you said, first about Neville Goddard through my mother's mailman. So when an idea, a time for an idea has come, and spirit, the universe, God, whichever language makes you, is in alignment with you, wants you to have this idea, it will find you. And so my mother's mailman started to talk to me about Neville and about Neville Goddard. And I was familiar with Florence Scovel Shinn. I was very familiar with many of these teachings, but I hadn't read Neville Goddard. But I, in all of my know-it-all self at the time, said, I already know. I've already read a lot. I know it all already. I don't need anything else. I know it all. And very interestingly enough, a very short time later, Dr. Wayne Dyer, who I used to listen to on Hay House Radio at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Monday. I had it set in I'll set the alarm on my phone.
Me too. I forgot about that. I started with all his books. And then there was his radio show, which was so great. Yeah. Well, we were listening at the same time.
I love that. I love that. So yes, and then Dr. Dyer said, I have a new book, and it's called Wishes Fulfilled, and it is about the teachings of Neville Goddard. And I was like, ding, 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 ding. Okay, this is something that has my attention. That is something to pay attention to. And I am an avid reader and researcher, and maybe take things like obsessive in my reading, I think is a fair way to put it. And so I find things and cross-reference them, and all of those
too.
So, me too. Yes. A little bit different than your regular casual reader.
I know.
But this led me to finding Abdullah and wanting to know more and more about him. And I'm so pleased now that I feel like, he has used me to bring forward now where the next person that goes searching for more information, that it's now here and it's all in this book, which is really a manifesting manual. And so I like to think of it not so much as a book that you read, but a book that you do. I want people to do this book, maybe read it through just once first, but I want you to go through and do the journaling and do the decrees and do the exercises and the processes that are here in this book for us.
Yeah, it's on my to-do list for the summer. And now that we're at late June, I better start that, because I read it through once and now I really want to do it. And I agree with you. The book is actually a really gorgeous combination of kind of fun instructional content and then these practices. So in a little bit, we'll close with some mental scripting and show people what that's like. But first, is there anything else you want to share with us about Abdullah, or anything else that we've talked about or not talked about?
So I love this conversation. Everything that you are doing is so beautifully in alignment with bringing these teachings to the forefront and allowing people to have a place to express these thoughts that, it feels to me like science is catching up with humanity and catching up with spirituality. And so, thank you so much for this. I actually have a Goddess of Receiving workbook. We were talking about receiving, so I think that would be the best gift for your audience. I have a free Goddess of Receiving workbook, and I will put the link. They can find the link on my site at womanifesting.com, but I will also give you the link that you can share with your audience. I think that it would be really helpful for them.
Beautiful. I love that. And so people who want to spend more time with your work should go to womanifesting.com.
Yes, absolutely. Go to womanifesting.com. I have tons of free content. Also books, oracle decks, all kinds of wonderful mystical tools and programs to help us to become who we were born to be.
Yes, I love that. Who we're born to be, and how perfect that your site is called Womanifesting. I mean, Abdullah must love that, because first him and now a female version bringing forth this material.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I want to just add to that. You said that one of the ways that we were able to connect today was through you listening to the conversation that I had with Michael Bernard Beckwith. And very interestingly enough, I see him also as our modern day version of Abdullah, right? Like
Me too. I know he's my dream guest on this podcast. I have not managed to get in contact with his people, but I think what Reverend Michael brings forward is so important and alive, compassionate, wise, completely on point in that he's really in touch with what's happening in our world, and he's highly aware, and he is such a master teacher of taking it higher. How are you going to take it higher? Whatever it is. I just can't recommend his podcast, his books, his online courses highly enough. He's a true master teacher.
So you missed the word there that I added when you said I have not been able to contact him. I added yet.
Very good. Very good. Yes, I'm going to keep trying because I just love him so much. I have a very, very deep affection and appreciation for him.
He's just getting ready for you. So he's getting
This is true. This is true.
Online. So
yes.
Yes.
Yes. So let's close with some mental scripting to show people what it can look like to engage with this. What I'd like to suggest is that we each bring forward a vision of what life on planet Earth can be like for humanity, everyone, all the people, and all the plants and all the animals and all the life systems and our planet, as more and more people wake up to conscious creativity and really deliberately matching what's going on in our minds and hearts with what we're then doing in the world. So you first or me first, whatever makes you happy.
Sure. Wouldn't it be nice if all of the children felt safe?
Won't it be amazing when everyone breathes clean air and drinks clean water?
I love that healthy food is available for everyone.
I love that the most holistic, body friendly, earth friendly, heart and soul friendly healthcare modalities are available to all people, all animals, and even plants and ecosystems.
It feels so good to live in a world that honors people, honors our plants, and honors our animals as well.
It feels extraordinarily inspiring for everyone to know that whoever they are, exactly as they are, they belong here, they have something vital to contribute, and they are safe just existing and expressing whatever is true in their heart.
What a blessing to know that we are safe. And it is safe to be safe. It is safe to be us. It is safe to think the way that you do. It is safe to feel the way that you do. It is safe to be who you were born to be.
How joyful it is that we are continually supporting one another in acting from our hearts and in kind, loving collaboration with other people and plants and animals and earth, so that all life is honored. Every single life is honored. People realize nothing is really a competition. Everything on this planet is a collaboration. So we might as well collaborate with joy and pleasure and conscious co-creativity.
What a blessing it is to feel good in our skin, to realize that we don't have to do one more thing. We don't have to do one more thing in order to be worthy, in order to be valid, in order to be enough. How incredible to know that right this minute, we are enough. You are enough. I am enough, and we are enough together.
How thrilling it is to see more and more and more people until it's everyone being welcomed to engage and finding their way to engage in becoming emotionally mature and emotionally intelligent so that each person can be healthy in and of themselves and then cultivate these beautiful, healthy relationships with other people and all of life.
I love that everyone has access to all of the resources that they need in order to live their most joyous, healthy, and abundant lives.
I love that everyone feels safe and excited expressing their profound appreciation and even adoration for our planet and all her life forms, and that it becomes normal. It is normal for people to cherish this planet we live on, which is our life support system, and just continually find more and more ways for us to live here regeneratively, simply making every system on this planet healthier and in more of a thriving and flourishing state, so that also all humans are continually becoming healthier and more in their fullest flourishing.
Ah, I love that our lives are honored and respected, adored and cherished, and everyone feels so worthy.
I love that humans come to think of ourselves as wise, loving, kind, cooperative and collaborative, inclusive, creative, dynamic, playful, peaceful, and that we are continually giving one another encouragement to be the very best versions of what a human being can be.
How wonderful that everyone finally realizes that our beautiful environment, our plants, our animals are all a reflection of us. How wonderful that people know that honoring and treating our environment well is really a reflection of how we think about ourselves.
Well, I think you and I could go on for hours. So we'll make this our last set.
Yes.
I'll say one more and then you can have the last word. How much of a triumph it is that Earth has become known by all who inhabit her and beings elsewhere as well as a planet of joy where all life thrives.
It feels so good just to feel so good. And so it is.
Well, that was fun. I think we could have just kept on. It's a wonderful exercise. I'm so glad we did that. So, for anyone who's hearing that and it's unfamiliar, I hope you got the experience of how when you do this on your own, or it really is always even more vibrant to do it with another person, as Abiola and I just did, you can really raise your vibration, raise your frequency, raise your inspiration, your confidence, your hope, your joy. And now everything looks different. Your sense of what's possible for you and all the kind of concentric communities around us, our households, our neighborhoods, our towns, our cities, our states, countries, the whole planet. So
Yay.
it's a great exercise, and I hope people will partake.
I hope so. I know that I will be definitely using it with other people.
Yes. So I really encourage people to get a copy of Abiola's book, from imagination to reality, secret manifestation lessons, and the law of assumption from Abiola, master alchemist. It is such an important book for our time. I am so thrilled that you've written it and just delighted that we got to be in conversation. Thank you so much, Abiola.
Oh, thank you so much. Deep bow to you, Chara. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Humans and Earth. We're honored to support you as you interweave your well-being with your desire to serve life's thriving. What did you hear in today's episode that you'd like to remember? Share it with someone else if you can. In a world often focused more on what's going wrong than what's going right, we can all contribute by helping those around us to see the renewal that's possible. Together, we can create healing and regenerative relationships with ourselves, other people, and the many species that make up the life community on Earth. Kindly share today's episode on social media or with a friend to welcome more people into contributing to flourishing for humans and Earth. Please follow our work on Instagram and Facebook at School Humans Earth. To gain access to our courses and coaching, visit www.humansandearth.com.